I never thought I'd say this season, but finally a win over the Flyers. The Lightning get their first win in their third game over Philly, fifth shutout of the year for Andrei Vasilevskiy in a 2-0 Lightning win. What does it mean for the Lightning in the first place race in the Atlantic Division?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Josh Sperber here, welcoming all of you into another episode of Locked On Lightning and thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code below, LOCKEDONNHL, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And third time was a charm for the Tampa Bay Lightning on St. Paddy's Day as they took down the Philadelphia Flyers. All they really needed was another early Nikita Kucherov goal. Second time this season against the Flyers that Nikita Kucherov has scored a goal within the first 2 minutes of the game, scoring about 90 seconds in on a great defensive play, and something that, frankly, I don't see a lot of from Nikita Kucherov. I mean, obviously, he's a great and incredibly talented hockey player, but I just don't feel like I see him making those just perfect stick checks like he made to poke that puck loose and take it up to an open ice and stick it in the net behind Fedotov. Turned out to be the only goal Fedotov and the only goal any goalie would allow, as the Lightning's second was an empty netter on the power play. Jake Guentzel, second in the league in power play goals and leading the Lightning, he's leading the Lightning with 33 goals. Braden Point getting his 34th assist on the play, as Nikita Kucherov had a hand in both Lightning goals. And this was really exactly what the Lightning needed. Maybe you want a more comfortable score, but you can't complain about a win, especially after what, for the most part, was a pretty tough win streak. And because the Maple Leafs aren't slowing down, they had a big blowout win over Calgary last night and are now even on points with the Lightning in second in the Atlantic Division. Both teams 2 points with a game in hand behind the Florida Panthers. We'll talk more about the divisional race in the next segment, but obviously, it is all coming down to those three teams in the Atlantic Division for the top. And this was a solid defensive game as well for the Lightning, obviously, with Vasilevskiy behind in the net. The Lightning, it was the first time in the last couple of games that one of their defensemen didn't put up a point, and the Lightning still have the highest scoring defense in the NHL. Victor Hedman taking point on that as he leads all Lightning defensemen with 12 goals and 41 assists. And he was excellent in the game against Philadelphia. And really, so was the Lightning defense. I mean, there's so many times over the course of a season where you'll see a missed check, a missed assignment, or something like that. But, I mean, the Lightning's rotations were just crisp. They got to the right spots on the ice on the offensive and defensive side. The shots didn't go in. Another just outstanding game by a road goalie in Amalie Arena is a little frustrating, sure. But, again, came away with a victory for Tampa Bay. And I think this was one of their bigger home wins that really isn't going to seem like it, especially considering that the Flyers are towards the bottom and now at the bottom after this loss of the Metropolitan Division. 64 points as the Lightning handed them their 33rd loss of the season. So obviously that doesn't seem like it's a big needle moving game, but the two games against Philadelphia for the Lightning this season were just so frustrating. I mean, both shootouts, both games that you felt like the Lightning were able to win, or especially in the case of the first game, they had completely under control. I mean, that last 5 minutes of the third period when Philly got their first goal in the other game at Amalie Arena this season, just heartbreaking. And you could tell that it just sucked the energy out of the Lightning bench, and you'd think that they'd come back on the road against Philadelphia. Obviously, Philly, a tough place to play, regardless of the success of the Flyers, just a passionate fan base. And same kind of thing happened. I think the Flyers had a bit more of an advantage in that game last week. A little bit more. They had a lead in the game last week, so that's more than the Flyers could say about any other point of this season. Because, if you look at Lightning versus Flyers, Lightning led for almost the entirety of regulation back in November, and the first time these two played each other at Amalie Arena. But the Flyers had a couple leads, relatively short-lived. The Lightning were able to equalize just about every time until the shootout. And then this one, it was just all Lightning. The Flyers really couldn't get too much going on offense. There weren't too many shots that came towards Vasilevskiy that I'm thinking, all right, this one could be dangerous, but, lucky we have the big cat. But that's still the case. Obviously, the Lightning still very lucky to have one of the best goaltenders in the league, top 5 in just about every single category over goaltenders, and for most of them, he's in the top 2 or 3. For the most part, I think if you look at the goaltenders in the NHL this year, you have an Eastern Conference Vezina winner in Andrei Vasilevskiy for the way he continued his season, and the Western Conference Vezina winner Connor Hellebuyck. You've got one goalie in each conference that has just been so dominant, and those are the 2 wins leaders in the NHL as well. So Vasilevskiy continues to prove again and again that he is one of the best netminders in the entire NHL, but especially after an illness for Nikita Kucherov, seeing him come out and, play hard in every minute is just a really great sign to see, because this is the home stretch of the season. And the Lightning certainly need Nikita Kucherov at full strength, as he had not played since the 11th against Carolina. But even then, 2 games without points, his last 2 before the one against the Bruins. He got an assist in that one, and then a hand in both goals tonight. Time and time again, Nikita Kucherov just proves how much he means to the Lightning and just how good of a player he is. He's currently 3rd in the league in points with 95, a little less than 10, I believe, behind Nathan MacKinnon for the league lead. And he is coming up on Leon Draisaitl, who's at 101, and also tied with Jay Gensel for the league lead with 15 power play goals in 2024 and 2025. So Kucherov, I think, certainly a guy who has a shot at the Art Ross Trophy again. I don't expect him to get another 144 points. Obviously, that's a crazy number even for Kucherov, but he'll get into triple digits probably with it by the end of the month, given the way that he is playing. And what's been so impressive about the rest of the Lightning is just how so many guys have stepped up. They're the only team in the league right now with 6 20-plus goal scorers. And obviously the depth of the team has been questioned since the beginning of the season. I think a lot of those questions have been put to rest since the trade deadline. Really, that huge move of acquiring Yanni Gourde and Oliver Bjorkstrand from the Seattle Kraken, I think really is not just a benefit to the Lightning right now, but hopefully, assuming they both re-sign, could definitely keep the Lightning with one of the deepest offensive attacks in the entire NHL. And this season, they might still be just under first place in terms of goals allowed per game. I think the 5th shutout of the season is certainly going to help that from Vasilevskiy. But I think that it's still just incredible what the Lightning offense has been able to do. The defense just meshes in with the offense so well and so seamlessly. And for the most part, they're able to rush back. And it just seems that sometimes the defense catches the Lightning offense slipping after a long offensive shift. And the puck goes the other way for a goal. That did not come close to happening tonight. It was just a really great all-around performance. Would have liked a couple more goals, but still solid play from the Tampa Bay Lightning and a much-needed win, because now they go on a 3-game road trip, Dallas, Utah, and Vegas, before they come back home to finish off the months of March, with Utah repeating at home as well for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I think the Lightning have really put themselves in a good position at the end of the season. They're within striking distance of first place. And for most of the season, it really seemed like that was a two-man race, or two-team race, I should say, between the Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. But the Tampa Bay Lightning have just kept hanging around, and now they've put themselves in the thick of the first-place conversation, and they might be trailing. But one game in hand and 2 points means that this division is anybody's game right now. And we're going to talk in the next segment about the Lightning's chances of winning said division. Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. With Factor, you get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. So you can fuel your body without the hassle of cooking. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen. And with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your menu to fit your goals, whether that's calorie smart, protein plus, or keto. I love how Factor keeps you on track with healthy, delicious meals without the time-consuming prep. And a Korean beef and creamy Parmesan chicken are some of my personal favorites. They taste homemade, but really take no effort. And the last time I tried to make Korean barbecue was not great. So I'm very thankful for that. And Factor also offers smoothies, breakfast, and snacks, so you can always have something nutritious ready to go. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use the code FactorPodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FactorPodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. And are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell opens are also a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Back in segment number 2 when we're talking about position number 1 in the Atlantic Division. For most of the season, as I previously mentioned, it was the Panthers and Maple Leafs jockeying for the top spot in the Atlantic with a 24-8-2 record at home, among the best in the entire NHL, and a scorching hot start to 2025. The Tampa Bay Lightning have put themselves in the thick of the division race. And now the only question that really needs to be asked is, what can they do to win? Because honestly, I did not think at the beginning of the season, if you told me that the Lightning would be this close to winning the division, I would be surprised. I would believe it, but I'd still be a little bit surprised. I mean, that was not the expectations that I had for the Lightning. I expected them to float into one of the bottom 2 wild card spots while the Panthers and Maple Leafs beat each other all up for the top spot. But that is no longer the case. The goal differential has the Lightning ahead of Toronto, despite the fact that the Maple Leafs are 1 win ahead of Tampa Bay and have a 3-0 series record to this point against Tampa Bay. Now, the Lightning will play the Panthers and Maple Leafs one more time. To the Lightning's advantage, those games are at home. But it being April, the next time these 3 teams see each other, the division could already be over, particularly by the time the Lightning play the Panthers, because that is their last home game of the season on April 15th, almost a week after they played the Toronto Maple Leafs on April 9th. 4 of the Lightning's last 5 games are at home, and I think the Lightning have a good-looking schedule of beatable teams that can really keep some pressure on the Lightning and Panthers. But, I mean, the moves the Panthers have made over the trade deadline are really solid. And the Maple Leafs are still trying to shake off that curse, and they worked on one of their biggest wins of the season against Calgary, just blew them off the ice. A really solid win in the last one for the Toronto Maple Leafs to snap 2 straight losses. And I just don't really see each team slipping all that much. I think the Maple Leafs, I don't think it's been as much about Toronto slipping rather than the Lightning just playing really well for the better part of the last 2-3 months. The Panthers have unfortunately just gotten better and better, it seems, as the season has gone on. And that makes it kind of difficult for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think, to get that top spot. But the Lightning just need to keep winning these games, and hopefully the division will still be up for grabs by April 15th when they take on the Panthers again. And hopefully the Lightning will have their first win of the season against Toronto under their belt on April 9th. But 3 games on the road coming up, then 3 games at home. The Stars, the Golden Knights, certainly going to be tough on the road. Penguins, Utah, and the Islanders coming home after that. So the Lightning, I mean, there's 3 winnable games at home right there. And Amalie Arena, another addition to its incredible 10-plus year sellout streak, happened against Philadelphia in that 2-0 shutout. So Amalie Arena has to be one of the most difficult places to play for a visiting team in the entire NHL. And the Maple Leafs and the Panthers have had success on the Lightning's home floor, home ice. That is certainly true. But, you know, this is a battle-tested team. I mean, this is a Lightning team that still is retaining the majority of its core from those back-to-back Stanley Cup championships not so long ago, whereas the Maple Leafs are adding guys, and the Panthers have a completely new-look roster after that deadline now. But, you know, the same coach for the Lightning, obviously case for the Panthers as well, but, you know, John Cooper still at the helm, still one of the best coaches in the NHL. And I just feel like he has his guys in some ways just more ready for big games. I mean, it seems like when the Lightning really needed a win, when there was a game with a little bit extra something on the line for the Tampa Bay Lightning, they stepped up and they just played harder. And that was certainly the case. I think the most evident example of that happened last month in February. The Lightning starting a 7-game win streak to end February after an overtime loss at home to the New York Islanders, another in a long series of January games where the Lightning seemed to just give away some contests. And then the Lightning, right after that, just 2 days in between, had 4 divisional games with 2 days of rest between the Senators contest and then a back-to-back in Detroit and Montreal. And I think the rest of the streak was more just icing on the cake. I don't want to diminish the wins that the Lightning had to end the month of February, beating the Crackin, Oilers, and Flames all at home by allowing 2 goals and scoring 11 over the span of their first 3 games after the Four Nations break. And then they beat the Capitals, who are maybe the best team in hockey right now. And since then, you know, obviously a couple of losses here and there. And I think you look at the Bruins game, you look at the Hurricanes game, and maybe even that one against the Flyers is some you like to forget. But even the first road game against the Flyers was certainly an improvement. And then the big win against Boston, I think, really lit a fire under the Lightning. And it certainly showed on the defensive side against the Flyers. But the Lightning are playing their best hockey right now. This is a team that really has been getting better and better as the season has gone on. And when you look around the rest of the NHL, I think the Capitals can fit that description as well. But I mean, I don't really think that about the way the Panthers are playing. I don't see, you know, too much of a difference from October to right now from Florida and Toronto. And obviously there's still the Senators. Certainly after that, it's a 10-point gap between 3rd and 5th, but the Senators are within 5 points of Toronto and the Lightning in 4th place. And they're still a sneaky team that could go on a run out of nowhere. But I think with the Lightning's offensive attack, if they get hot in the last month of the season, even on this road trip, they could really be a team to watch for. They've made their way from a team that, frankly, a lot of people had given up on after the beginning of their offseason, and really a lot of people didn't know what to expect. And now they're not just a serious playoff contender, but in my opinion, they have to be considered a dark horse to take home that Stanley Cup. I mean, it just seems likely now. I mean, this wasn't something that I'd say I was thinking about 2 months ago in January, but I mean, right now, if the Lightning keep it up like this, I don't know how many teams are going to be able to beat them in a 7-game series. And it's an experienced team. It's a really solid team, and they have maybe the best goalie in the world in Andrei Vasilevskiy. And you combine all that, and that's a recipe for a team that can do some serious damage in the postseason. And I still think they're a team that can catch the Panthers in first place, but Lightning just have to stay healthy, and they just have to keep playing like they've been playing. Really solid run of games for February, for the better part of March, with a couple of setbacks, but it seems like those are past the Lightning. Kucherov over his injury. Bolts are healthy right now. JJ Moser's rounding back into form. I really like the state of the Lightning as we head towards the playoff push portion of the NHL season. And something that is going to be very key to Tampa Bay is their defense, not just on the blue line, but also bringing the puck up and down the ice and assisting on the offense. We've talked about the Lightning's league-leading scoring defense all year long. We're going to a little more detail when we come back. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's very easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now, I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is now smoother than ever at Monarch Money. You can track and share it in personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
We are back and ending it off with a chat about the Lightning defense. It was a rare game for the Tampa Bay Lightning where a defender did not register a point. Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point assisting on Jake Gensel's empty net power play goal, while Nikita Kucherov scored the lone even strength goal of the game and the only shot that actually got behind a goalkeeper. And I think that we can talk about just the Lightning's defense and how much better it's gotten over the course of the season. You really see some of the kind of other guys who were, especially those third liners like Darren Radish, really stepping up. Emil Lilleberg providing a much needed physical presence for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I mean, just about all of the Lightning defensemen are in double-digit points. The only exceptions being Declan Carlisle, Max Crozier, and Steven Santini. Of course, between the three defensemen, all now in AHL Syracuse, there are a grand total of 9 games played between them. That is the amount of assists for the lowest point scorer among Lightning defensemen, JJ Moser, who has only played 38 games over the course of the season, 2 goals and 9 assists. And he is rounding into form. Of course, Victor Hedman leading the charge on the Lightning defense, consistently a guy who is playing the most minutes, and you just rarely see him off the ice for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I really like the Hedman and Moser line. I think Radish works there as well. He's a similar kind of player to JJ Moser. I just think Moser's a better defensive defenseman than Radish is, who I believe has the offensive edge over JJ Moser. And I think one of the reasons that JJ and Hedman work so well together is Hedman is more aggressive, I think, than most defensemen on the offensive side. He is an asset to the Lightning offense in every way you can think about it. While JJ Moser isn't really a guy who is looking to score. He's a guy that is ready to sprint back and try and cover the breakaway if there's a mistake to be made. And I think we've seen a lot fewer of those goals against the Lightning since Moser has come back from injury. And you can really see the impact he's made on the defensive side. And then, of course, that second line, who honestly, I think you can argue has been the best defensive line for the Lightning all season. Aside just from the sheer consistency that Cernak and Ryan McDonagh have been able to develop together. McDonagh has played every single game so far for the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is truly impressive. And Erik Cernak has only missed 6, but Cernak with a career-high 19 points already, as McDonagh has 22 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And defensively, those two guys have such good chemistry. I mean, yeah, they were the Lightning lines on the second defensive line on those Stanley Cup teams a couple of years back, but they haven't missed a beat since opening day. I mean, from day one, when those two were paired up together, it looked like none of their chemistry had changed even an inkling. And defensively, it's one of the highest scoring lines in terms of plus minus, as Ryan McDonagh is among the league leaders with plus 34. Erik Cernak not too far behind. He's third on the team at plus 25. And it is just such a shutdown defensive line. And I just like the change that it goes from a really balanced line, but maybe, if anything, a bit more offensive leaning on line one with Hedman and Moser, and then just, pure knock you out defense from McDonagh and Cernak. And then the third line, you have the physicality of Emil Lilleberg. I mean, he is just insatiable some games, just going after everybody and making big hits. And, a lot of the hits are just in the run of play and just, smart defensive plays from Emil Lilleberg, but he's a very physical player. And sometimes a big hit from him or a fight from him gives the Lightning the shot in the arm that they need. And it's good having a guy like that on your third defensive line. And I think Darren Radish has been just excellent for the Lightning. He really stepped up with JJ Moser out and was so key, especially during that 7-game win streak. While Moser was getting back to full health, Radish has been so good for the Lightning on the offense and defensive side. And honestly, he's looked like one of the best defensemen on the Tampa Bay Lightning this season. Nick Perbix has been the other guy that the Lightning have used a lot. And Perbix is, I feel like in some ways he's just kind of on the outside looking in. I mean, he is involved as he can on defense. He's all involved as he can be on defense, more of a defensive guy, but he's a very smart hockey player. And so many of his goals, so many of his assists are, just getting himself into the right position. I know there's been at least 2 of his goals where Perbix has just come in from the top out of nowhere to find a puck in the center of the ice and tuck it in the back of the net. And then on the flip side, I mean, the Lightning really, they have a lot of good stick handlers in their forwards. And because of just some of the offensive skills, I think the Lightning defensemen get a whole bunch of assists. Moser needs 1 to make every Lightning primary blue liner record 10 assists or more, and that's something I think we'll get pretty quickly. But I think the passing from the Lightning defense, for the most part, has been really crisp. And the games, a lot of the time that the games the Lightning lose are games where you haven't seen that skill passing, and it is just, sometimes you have some of those games, and it's hard to work through, but the Lightning have fought through that. I mean, they've showed their experience this season. The veterans have really been helping along the young players. And I mean, you look at guys like Gage Gonzalez, Connor Geegy, both of them, I think, living up to expectations, and Gonzalez, I think, blowing them up. He's had, especially after his second stint, he's had an incredible second half of the season. And I think he's developing into a real force for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I think, especially in the postseason, I'm going to want to see the Lightning defense pretty heavily involved with their offense. There's been 9 games where a Lightning defenseman has scored a goal this season. The Bolts have won all 9. Over the last 15 games, Lightning defensemen have combined for almost 50 points, and it has been quite a great 15-game stretch for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Lightning defense, I think, is certainly key to really unlocking the full potential of their offense, because just having those guys that can spread the puck up the ice and move away from traffic and get the puck in open spaces is a valuable thing to have in a defense, and that is certainly what the Lightning have, and it's one of the many reasons why they have the number 1 scoring defense in the entire NHL. And that is going to do it for today's Locked On Lightning, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please give us a like, a follow, a subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We appreciate your support. Feel free to come at us in the comments at @LO_Lightning on X as well. We'd love to hear from you guys about the Bolts and maybe even about some things you'd like to see in the podcast. So connect with us. Until then, thank you all for tuning in. I'm Josh Sperber, and let's go Lightning. Have a great week, everybody.